ourselves. And that's where I think love comes from. It's not just an internal experience of getting what you want. It's an experience of a life of meaning. And a life of meaning comes when we understand for things to change, we've got to change. For things to get better, we've got to get better. It's not somewhere outside of ourselves. Well, thank you, Michael. The last two questions I have or points are, I'd like for the whole group, and again, thank you, we've gone way over the time. But I think these last two are simple but important. I want to finish with what can we do? We've talked about it, but I'd like to hear of you that want to say these are the specifics. Many of them gone. We'll walk through that in a second. But before that, Black Lives Matter. It's bizarre to me that human beings hear Black Lives Matter and they think that's controversial. But I understand, because when you dig in and ask people what they believe, then you often hear people say, well, wait a second, especially people that aren't African-American, it's like all lives matter. And well, yes, all lives matter, obviously, but they don't get what the message is. It's not saying Black Lives Matter and nobody else does. It's saying we're under attack. We've been attacked for centuries. We're attacked for decades. We need your help. And that message somehow gets lost, because especially when people are in intense states of anger, which what else could they have? Right. Often what that does, as you said earlier, produces fear and versus anger. And we went through this syntax with Daryl a little bit ago. So I saw a little poster that I thought, I've sent it to people that have these conversations that I'll throw up on the screen, but I'd like each of you to share, what's the problem with all lives matter? I think I understand, but I want to hear from your voices. What does Black lives really matter? What's the essence of it? You can throw it up on the screen, this beautiful little girl holding up this poster. And what it says here, if you guys can see it, is it says, we said Black Lives Matter. Never said only Black Lives Matter. We know all lives matter. We just need your help. With the Black Lives Matter, for Black lives are in danger. I mean, in one poster, this little girl, I think, just put it so clear, because it answers the question a lot of them. But I'd like you, anyone want to address this, please address this, because I want to take away this illusion that some people seem to have, that Black people are saying we're the only ones that matter, which is the most absurd thing I could possibly hear, but people believe it. And I have to remind myself, they know not what they do, right? It's like, based on their upbringing, based on their beliefs, based on their conditioning, they couldn't believe anything else in this moment, but they could believe something new if we can create an opening. That's what this set of conversations has been about. That's what Daryl's been doing. That's what you all been doing. So anyone would like to address this? I'd like to hear your view of, Black Lives Matter and what it's really about, so that people that are not within the movement maybe have a deeper perspective of what its message is. I hope this conversation as a whole has already answered it, but I think we should answer it specifically. And then I'm going to come back to you with the last question, which is, what definitive steps can we, all those who are listening, take to make a difference? And, obviously making your voice heard is a piece of that. But to me, the ones that natural to me is we gotta stop chokeholds as a systemic component by anybody with consequences so severe it can't be used unless it's life and death survival. We've got to make sure that there's some penalty for those that don't share or don't stop someone from doing this. If someone is saying I can't breathe, there's got to be an instant stop, or there's got to be a penalty strong enough. I mean, those are my illusions of what needs to be done systemically. But I'd like to hear what each of you think we need to do systemically and personally. What can we do so we leave here taking action? Because, being inspired is nice, but to me, there are two great orators of antiquity, Demosthenes and Cicero. And, when, Cicero is done speaking, everybody said, what a great speech. When Demosthenes is done, people said, let us march. My goal is let us march, not just protest, but march in some form of action that moves this conversation that you've given 3 hours of your lives to, so that we can see some progress. I know we're not going to be the end all and be all on one conversation, but we can make real progress with people that care. So first, anyone want to address Black Lives Matter and its real mission and service? And then second, let's come to what do we do, and we'll wrap up this beautiful conversation.
I think that when we hear Black Lives Matter, if people can understand, it is saying Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter also. It is not saying other lives don't matter. It is saying that we've been under siege for so long in terms of how we've been treated by the legal system, how we've been treated by brute force, by police departments, how we've been treated by redlining, mass incarceration, poor healthcare, piss poor education based on the neighborhoods we've been living in. Black Lives Matter also. That's what it means. Now, Black Lives Matter in some cases, some legal entities see them as a terrorist group, which is just ridiculous. They're not a terrorist group. Black Lives Matter is an educational group to push the needle forward.
Yes.
That Black Lives Matter also. So if individuals can think also, then they won't be up in arms and have to rush really fast to say all lives matter. We know all lives matter, but historically, our lives haven't mattered.
Yes, I get it. Would someone else like to share in this area?
I would probably just piggyback on what he's saying. It's not, the thing that I've realized for myself and what I realized that happens when, people of the community speak about their feelings and their thoughts and what they're going through, oftentimes, depending on the tone of voice, it's always taken out of content saying that it's of anger. It's coming from a place of anger. Yes, it's coming from a place of anger. Yes, it's coming from a place of hurt. But if you haven't experienced it, of course, you're going to take that offensively. But as humans, we should look at it as, think about it if it was you and your family. So of course, you're going to be angry about it. Of course, you're going to be, it's going to come off however you take it. So I think that this movement is looked upon as being like this angry, aggressive. Well, some form of it, yes, they are, because as it said before, it's come to a point where we're fed up. No one should have to witness their kid going to the store buying something simple, and this is a great kid, and then they never see that kid again. Like, who wouldn't feel every emotion possible? So yes, sometimes it is anger. Yes, sometimes it is pain. Yes, it is. But at the end of the day, everybody is saying the same thing. This is a basic statement. I don't understand how it's always taken out of content to be this negative movement. It's like, it is what it is. Black Lives Matter. There's no other simpler way to say it, but Black Lives Matter. I'm sure if it was said another way, it'd be taken out of content that way. It's like nothing us as a community say is ever what it is. It's always taken to somebody else's personal perspective and like amplified something negative. That's not fair. It is what it is. Black Lives Matter. That's it. I don't know how else simpler to say it.
Perfect. That's perfect. Let's finish with what actions. Shelby, you've mentioned some already, but what do you hope will come out of this conversation? Someone is watching this conversation, and by the way, hopefully those that are brown skinned, those that are part of the LGBT community, those that experienced any form of racism or any form of oppression, understand this conversation was for them as well. But this one is about the African American experience.